This is the story of the time I got paid to be in a band, which is rare, but not super rare. It happens a lot more in the successful spheres. But I had it happen to me, and it went on for a couple of years, which was really nice. And I've been wanting to tell this story, but I have been reticent. I have held back from it because I have to say it very carefully, because it's like I don't want to hurt anyone else with the way I describe things. I want to choose my words carefully, you know? Well, I'll give you a brief summary of my life up until when that happened. I was born in upstate New York and only lived there a couple of years. I lived in Pennsylvania for 4 years in my childhood, and when I was 8 years old, we moved out to the inland Northwest, like northern Idaho, eastern Washington, like right on the border there, in several different little towns. But the one I lived the most was Moscow, Idaho. And after living there for 18 years, or in that area, in that region, I just had to get out. Had like a rough breakup and was super depressed at my job at this factory that was hard to leave because it had like good benefits. I had health benefits, I had employee stock ownership and all that stuff. But after 6 years, I felt like my brain was just melting. Like, I felt dumb. I was like, at that time, I'm 26. I should be I'm in the prime of my life. I should be thriving, you know? And so I was like, I just need to get out. I saved up enough money, which was actually hard. It was almost like the universe was against me. Because I was thinking about this a year in advance. I was planning for it a year in advance. And I was saving up. And then my car broke down. I ended up having all these extra expenses, which I guess is good that it's like that happened and I got that taken care of beforehand. But sometimes you plan for something and it almost seems like there's intentional roadblocks placed there where it's like, excuse me, this is a little obvious. It's not very mysterious at all, a little predictable. Anyways, I had to move to Chicago, and my brother was going to the SAIC, the Art Institute there, and finishing his bachelor's at the time. And he was like, yeah, you can stay with us, split the rent, it's really cheap. And so I lived in Bridgeport with him for a year. Anyways, I was in a kind of hard rock band in there for a minute, and a little folky garage band, but didn't get super serious with my music yet. I was fiddling around with recording stuff, and there's actually some stuff on Bandcamp of my music that's when I was just starting out. It's pretty crude, it's just undeveloped. You can tell I'm a beginner, but it's out there. There's just instrumentals and some goofy little songs. But anyways, I then moved out to DeKalb and worked on this kind of animal rescue ranch and retirement place for farm animals, like sheep and goats and ponies and donkeys, and we even had a llama, and I had a great time with the animals. I worked on farms most of my life. That's been the ethos, is cultivation, plants and animals. And but after a year there, it was one of those places I got paid for board, to stay there too. So that was a pretty cool thing. But there was just nothing in DeKalb except for Chicago, that's 80 miles away. And it was tough. I broke up with my girlfriend at the time, who, thinking back, was one of the most sweet relationships I ever had. No fights, we were always good to each other, always had good times and stuff. If anything, I was the one that was more miserable for no reason, but that's just my existential struggles. But she was great, and we're still friends. We don't talk that often, but she's a very accomplished artist herself, and actually did like 8 years in school and got a master's. Anyways, I had to move out of there. I can get way too off on the side branches. I had to move out of Chicago, or out of Illinois, because I was just like, I need mountains. I need like this, like hills and mountains and trees and bodies of water that isn't just Lake Michigan. And even though I had a great time in Chicago, that's my favorite city of all the big cities I've been to, which isn't that many, I guess. But I decided I was moving back. I went to San Francisco for a month and a half and worked for my dad, who was doing petitions, and I instantly realized I hated it. But I literally did it for money, and also as an opportunity to quit smoking weed and drinking and everything. So that was rough. Like, I did not like the petitions. It didn't help that I was like detoxing. Like, that makes you like just despise something you don't like with even more loathing. But I did that, and then I had enough money. I moved to Washington. I had a friend here, actually 2 friends here, and a sister that was going to school here at the Evergreen. And I was like, I'm by the sound, I can go to the water, and it just was like a new environment. And I've been here the last almost 9 years. It'll be 9 years in June. Well, I worked on a farm here, a plant and animal farm, and met who would become my wife at the time. We were together for 3 years, and she really wanted to do a farm, but I got involved in this old rock and roll band, and then I got this opportunity with this other band to be paid to help this guy write these songs of his and like compose them and record them, and it was such an awesome thing. I was like, this is so cool. I'm actually getting paid. Like, I've become successful enough to, it's like my time is of value, my expertise at that point. So that was really cool, but it was such a learning experience, because oftentimes in any relationship, especially in the honeymoon period, everything is such a cool new opportunity, just a fresh breath of air in life, and you just feel like there's you can feel the potential until you start seeing either like behavior patterns or certain areas of unawareness that other people don't have, that you have to navigate through, because it's just complicated. Like, being in a band, most anyone that's been in a band can vouch to this, or just that there's always going to be artistic differences. But it was interesting because, and it's not this way for all people who are financially independent, because some people know what it's like to just, if anyone's lived a life like mine where they just work their whole life, I don't know, how do I explain what I'm trying to explain? Sometimes there's just areas of unawareness. I noticed because I started being really involved in the music community, and I'd go to these jams. A friend of mine and me would host a jam in his backyard, and we just had some fantastic times. It was actually it was like the biggest blessing that came out of my experience through COVID, because all of us musicians were like, what do we do? And he had a big backyard, and we would like meet up there and be spaced about, but have like like outside jam sessions, and no one got sick. And it was a very special time because all we had was each other. And it was also like the closest thing to human interaction we had, because you are interacting musically and getting to talk and visit. So yeah, what I'm saying is I was involved in the community, but I was noticing that the musicians I was working for were not like involved in the community like that. And I had the feeling that like maybe they felt like black sheep or something, even though they weren't. They were just kind of different and had a different vibe, and were really into the power of attraction thing, like Abraham Hicks and all that, which I have thoughts. I could do a whole nother video on that. I've mentioned it in other videos, but I think we're always attracting like what we want. It's like our wanting, our every thought, our every want is like a prayer, if you will, and we are the ones bringing it into actual like reality, manifesting it, as they like to say, manifestation. It's a trendy one. So yeah, we're always doing that. Of course, we have the limitations of like the set and setting, the time we're in, and the people we're around, and just the confines that we live in this existence, internally and externally. And I'm working with that. But the other thing, it's like being on the spectrum, or maybe like it is that, I guess, where you just are not aware of certain things that like a lot of people are aware of. And I kind of have that to some degree with some things, and I kind of feel like an outsider in that way, because amongst a lot of my friends, I'm just in a different like vibe or something. I'm still with them and present, but it's like I don't know how to explain it, but I just don't relate with people, or I don't have the same kind of disposition that a lot of people have, I guess. Well, also, these people I was working for, also, as we all do, had insecurities and stuff, but like their insecurities would be pretty obvious to everyone, and they would also, which was just a little bit cringy for me and a lot of people. We'd laugh at it, not that bad. I don't want to be cringed out by things all the time. Yeah, I don't know. That's just the snobby American way to always cringe at things and be snobby and I don't want to be like that. But whatever, I am sometimes. But yeah, the insecurity, and then their whole ideology or whatever of fake it till you make it, which all of us are like, no. Like they'd promote the Facebook posts and stuff, and it was like different than other kind of promotions, because somehow they'd get all these likes and like no engagement, like 1 or 2 comments. And so that kind of is obvious to everyone that it's like you're just buying likes. It's like, and like the rest of the band was like, no, don't do that. Like it's not, it's like we have to work for that. Like we have to, and then like we will have actual engagement with actual people that are actually inspired and had a meaningful interaction with us, which is what we're here to procure, as well as just enjoying our own art for the sake of enjoying it. So there were some challenges like that, and then just also this perfectionism of like re-recording things so many times, and that's what kind of ended up driving me to the brink of losing my cool too many times and being like, I'm not gonna, because I felt like I got singled out for that a lot of times because I'm playing solos on guitar, and I would start out, if they didn't like it, I'm like, okay, that's fair. I'm up for the challenge to find something that works for both of us. Like, this can be done. And so I would, but sometimes, like, they'd go back on it. It's him and his partner, and his partner was also in the band, and she'd usually side with him, which is fine. Like, whatever. But like, being the single guy, I don't know. I've been in a lot of bands with couples, and I'm kind of burnt out on it because I don't know. I could do a whole nother video on that. It's a bit complex, but it's like I don't have a partner. I don't know, it's just different. And so there was that. There was the insecurity and like the repetitive, like they'd fixate on one thing that they thought was wrong, or I'm gonna say he, not they, because it was mostly him. And all of a sudden he'd hear something that you think is wrong, and like no one else would like feel that way. So I know it wasn't just me being resistant. And after a while, you know, I just didn't have enough patience. I was like, I feel devalued, and you know, I had this little, you know, it blew up at one point. But then we like reconciled, and we're just like, let's, you know, it's been a good run. It's been going on 6 years. It's like, let's call it, you know. So we did. And the other thing was, I only got paid for maybe half the time, half of those years, because he did run out spending exuberant amounts on like the promotions and stuff. It blew our minds when he admitted to us that he spent $1 million on the band, which I know isn't that much anymore these days, but it's just like, holy fuck, man. If I had that much money, I'd hire a band, we get a set together, and I'd just pay for us to go on tour, and we just dive in, get fully immersed. And because it's expensive, like, you end up spending money unless you're already like a made musician and people know you. But it just travel for the fun of it. That could be one of the best summers of our lives, you know. But also he had kids, so he couldn't just like leave like that. But it was an interesting and very fruitful learning experience for me, because I definitely upped my game with my playing and just like bringing it, you know, crushing it, which I didn't always crush it. I definitely bombed sometimes and got that experience as well. Whew, I tell you, a bomb is just like, whew, as high as it can feel to like kill it on stage, it's equally crushing inside to like accidentally murder something in you know, a song I'm talking about. Yeah. Anyway, I've got a lot of other stories too, but I'll leave it at that for now.